Yes, hello everyone, also from my side. Very happy to be here to facilitate today's event a little bit. As Susanne already mentioned, I'm the Talent Scout for IT. And before we start, or let's say to kick it off, I would like to ask you a simple question. And for that, I would like our colleagues to help me. And you guys all, please to pick up your phones, take them out, get you excited and integrated in all this, and please go to menti.com. I think you are all familiar with the procedure. And there you see the question that we would kindly ask to answer, and that is, how prepared do you feel to take on future digital challenges? Because this is what today's event is about, and we would really like to get kind of an insight how you feel in that regard. So I would like you to do this. But as we have kind of a tight schedule, Susanne pointed it out already a little bit, because our speakers do not have that much time, also do not want to take too much of their time. And without further ado, would welcome our first speaker, which is Rose Padfield. Rose is an executive coach and a consultant, and she has, I would say, kind of extensive experience with development of people, right, and teams and organizations. And as Susanne pointed out, she will shine a light a little bit on the individual in this topic that we're going to talk about. So, Rose, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. It's lovely to meet you. Friendly faces. I've already met a few of you today, actually, that come up to say hello to me, where I've worked with you in the past. So that makes it wonderful. It feels like I'm amongst friends already. And I've just spotted a few more. So I am going to, as Patrick said, give you the personal development angle, so hopefully give you some food for thought about your own development. And really that starts, as you probably know, with knowing yourself. And if you know yourself, you can make some choices and then be yourself. And I think in today's world, being yourself better enables you to connect with other people, which is what we're wired to do, and then we'd be much more effective. So let me start by giving a bit of a history lesson, especially for those of you that are younger than me. So when I started work, which was literally the last century, work was a lot more formal. Certainly wouldn't have been allowed to wear trousers to work. In fact, I did turn up to work once in trousers and was almost sent home. And I was told, you are a woman, you must wear a skirt or a dress. Please don't come to work in trousers again. And working hours were much more fixed and formal. Hierarchy was there. All the bosses had these offices that were all very fancy, and all the worker bees were in the middle. Life was much more stable, however. So you kind of knew what you were going to do. The people that you worked with were most likely in the same building as you, so you could just talk to people much more easily. Whereas nowadays, fast forward into this century, the pace of change is immense. We move at a much faster pace. Technology has transformed how we work and the work that we do. And you guys know that better than anyone. You're the pioneers of that work. And the robots are marching towards us, let's face it, so that's only going to continue. Many of you, if not all of you, are probably in global teams, so you need to be able to converse and connect with people in a global world. And teams come together and then disappear much more quickly. So the ability to connect with people and build relationships becomes much more important. And I think the final point on this I'd make as well is agility. I don't know if any of you are fed up with hearing that word yet, but I work with a lot of companies. Is it absolutely the word of the day? I don't know a company that isn't talking about agility. And it's because we need to know as much as we can, but also accept we can't know everything anymore, because there's so much to know, there's so much out there, and the pace of change is so fast that we need to kind of let go a bit and work in a more agile way and kind of co-create. And I'm hoping that what I'm going to share with you today will help you think about that some more. So firstly, has anybody seen that model before, the iceberg model? Put your hand up if you have. A lot of you, good. Or you can come up here and tell me what it is then. So just to connect that with us then, you will know therefore that the iceberg, you only ever see really the top part of the iceberg, which is about 10%. Most of the iceberg is underneath the waterline, and yet the ocean and the currents are really acting on what's underneath that waterline, and it really shapes that tip. And we as human beings are like that. What you see in how I'm behaving and how your colleagues are behaving are what's above the waterline. but actually what's underneath it is everything that drives that. So our values, our assumptions, our belief. And that's partly driven by personality. It's driven by how we were brought up, so what our parents really valued and taught us. And then as we become adults, it's the people that we live with, our spouse, our friends, the people that we work with. That really informs our mindset, which then triggers the behavior that you see, whether that's helpful in a meeting or at work or unhelpful. And I think that drives also then what you feel about working in this ever-changing environment where this need to be agile is so important. And taking that a little bit further, Carl Jung, who, and if any of you have heard of him, a very well-known Swiss psychologist, talked about masks or personas. So the masks that we wear in order to make us acceptable and safe. So when you're children, you sort of learn to hide your true nature, because if a certain aspect of your personality was not acceptable to your parents, you put on a mask and you hid it, unless you're my daughter, of course, in which case I have to do what she tells me to do. And then as we go to work, and the culture of the organisation quickly tells us what's safe and what's not safe, what's acceptable about how we behave and what's not acceptable. And through Carl Jung's research, what he noticed was that people, when they get to their late 40s, early 50s, sometimes were then making much more of an inquiry about actually who am I, what makes me tick. And then we're feeling more confident and comfortable to remove their masks and actually be who they are. Some people never do that, but others do. And then if you remove your mask, then you're revealing your true self. And then actually your opportunity to connect with other people is much more real. And I think connection is the key to this digital world and working in a more agile way. And certainly when I started work, you had to have these masks about, you couldn't be yourself. Where, as Susanna said, we're all going to learn from each other today, so you need to remove these masks. So, what does it take? What does it feel like to remove the mask? Well, I would propose that vulnerability is a key part of that. A key message I want to really leave you with actually today is vulnerability. And I, as a child, was certainly brought up that vulnerability was a weakness. Don't show a weakness. Don't show you don't know something. And as Patrick said, I do a lot of coaching and I do a lot of work with teams and leadership teams. And often a mask, going back to masks, a mask that people wear is, I need to be an expert. I mustn't admit if I don't know something because that will make me unsafe. That will make me ridiculed. I'll lose credibility. Whereas, as I've already said, you can't know it all, actually, so you need to show that vulnerability and see it actually as a strength. So this is the final slide I wanted to leave you with, and I don't know if any of you have heard of a researcher called Brené Brown. She's big on TED, if any of you ever listened to any TED Talks. She has done a really great talk on vulnerability. She spent 6 years researching vulnerability. And what she said was really important was to have a sense of self-worth. So you are a valid person and you are worthy of belonging. And what she noticed was that people that had self-worth had these 3 things in common. So the courage to be imperfect, the compassion or kindness for yourself and other people, and back to the masks, taking off those masks and be who you truly are. And they also fully embraced vulnerability. So my message to you really is actually if all of us removed our masks, were comfortable and confident to be who we truly are, we're much more likely to connect with each other without those filters in the way. Then we can co-create. Then we can get the work done without the ego in the way or the fear in the way. And I think that makes you much more prepared for continuing to work in this digital world. And let's face it, you guys are the pioneers for this. The rest of us, non-IT people, are relying on you to be able to do that for us. So I just leave that with you. Think about your mindset. Think about the masks that you wear. Which ones would you remove? And what would that do for you? And if everybody in the room did that, think of the power that that would create in being able to work in a much more agile, co-creative way. Thank you very much.